So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Brandon and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
It is Heel to the Face, our year-end review. I'm joined as always to my right, if you're watching on YouTube, or my left, if you're watching on YouTube, Brandon the Icebreaker Clements, myself at K-Rock Jared on all social media dials, Instagram and Twitter to be specific, and most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face. This is our year-end review. We're not going to get too topical about what's going on in WWE, a lot of pre-tape stuff around the holidays, but we're going to give you our picks for Match of the Year, Female Wrestler of the Year, Male of the Year, and everything else in between. So without further ado, let's get some of the stuff that did happen this week, or most topical, out of the way. We'll start off with, don't bring your U.S. title into a house show at Madison Square Garden, because most likely you're going to lose it. AJ Styles became the victor a couple years ago with that mantra, and now Andrade has taken the U.S. belt away from Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Why are we doing this at live shows? I don't get that. I get it's in MSG, it's in New York City, but like if you're gonna drop the title, like why wouldn't you put it on TV or at least the network? You know,
well, MSG. Well, the reason I
that?
think they do is because they always try to promote this MSG show, this holiday show that they do every single year as special. It pretty much draws a huge crowd at MSG every year, even when they weren't doing Raw and SmackDowns there. It's kind of like a network exclusive. I want to even say they might have aired this holiday special on the network a few years ago, but it's just it's what we see with like those pay-per-views in Saudi Arabia. They're really trying to pump up this house show.
But here's the thing: why you just
why not make it a network exclusive?
Yeah, why not network exclusive, or why isn't it happening on Raw or SmackDown? That's the issue that I have with it. I mean, it's cool I guess it's cool in that aspect. But if they're only going to do it to MSG, like, what's the point?
Yeah, I'm fine with titles changing hands at house shows because we can talk in nauseum about not going to house shows because titles don't change hands and giving us a reason to attend house shows.
Exactly.
But the problem is it still doesn't, because any time that they change hands, it goes back even to the 90s when Bob Backlund lost the world title to Kevin Nash. I mean, it happens, or won the world title, I think, from Kevin Nash. It happens only at Madison Square Garden. So it's not, you never know what's going to happen at a live event. It's more like you never know what's going to happen at a live event at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it's very, very specific. I think if they really want to draw things up a little bit more on the live show circuit, maybe you do the title changing hands, and then like make sure like it's like on a like it's the show before Raw, they're back the champion again. So it's not like TV really got screwed up.
Well, that's what we used to see all the time with the hardcore belt. The hardcore belt at the start of a show would change hands, and then obviously would change hands 5 or 6 different times during the house show, and then by the end of the house show, it would pretty much be in the or you could even do that with the 24/7 belt. You could have whoever the 24/7 champion is lose the belt, lose it to someone else, beat that person, leave the show with the belt. Us watching on TV are none the wiser that he lost the belt 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that I get that, but it's overall that's why I don't go to live shows. Like I know we get them here in Syracuse. I know there's one coming up here, in a couple months. The road to WrestleMania. Again, there's no storylines to it. Like for me, if I'm going to a show, it needs to have storylines built in. Because here's the thing: if they're putting the WWE Universal Championship on the line, we know it's not going to change hands here in front of a few people here in Syracuse, New York, at a live event, like one of those
untelevised live events.
It makes
not screw up the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania by changing it.
No, it makes no sense.
Madison Square Garden, though, obviously is treated different, and it's a much bigger crowd. And when they
MSG is kind of like the home away from home for WWE, anyways.
Yes.
But at the same time, like if you're doing this for MSG, why aren't you doing it for other places as well? That's what I get frustrated about. It's great for the MSG fans, but overall, I just if you're gonna do it for MSG, you do it for everybody else.
So quickly moving on, this will be our last show before Wrestle Kingdom comes up this upcoming Friday and Saturday in Japan, Friday and Saturday, because this year it's going to be a 2-night event. I even think that they announced last year was going to be a 2-night event before they even realized that AEW was going to exist and that it was going to make it kind of tough that you're now putting on an even larger event, now minus Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, whom those are the people that kind of made it so we are familiar with Wrestle Kingdom over here in North America, because those are the guys that brought it to the forefront. So minus the guys that made the show popular in the States, it still looks like New Japan Wrestling isn't dropping the ball. They still do have AEW people like Jon Moxley. He's going to take on Lance Archer in a Texas death match for the IWGP United States Championship. The match can only be won by a 10 count, knockout, or submission. I mean, you still have Chris Jericho. He's going to defend the title, or not defend the title, but he's going to face Hiroshi Tanahashi on night number 2. And if Tanahashi wins, well, then Jericho has to defend the AEW title against him on a later date here in the States. So we'll get to see that guy. But I think most intriguing, obviously, is the semifinals. Night number 1, you have the Intercontinental Championship on the line with a very well-known American guy, Jay White, taking on Naoto, as well as Okada versus Ibushi. Those guys have gone to some popularity here in the States, obviously with their matches against Kenny Omega in the past. That's for the heavyweight championship. The winners of those 2 matches meet on night number 2. Winner take all the gold. I have to say one thing about this show. It's going to be 2 nights. It's going to be a lot of wrestling because Wrestle Kingdom was already the length of WrestleMania, and it looks like both nights are going to have over 10 matches. One night is advertised to have 9 matches. One night's to 11. It's going to be kind of tough to watch all that wrestling. It's going to be 14 hours of wrestling that we're going to try to recap next week in a week. But either way, it still has some things I do want to check out. And I was, very hesitant when they announced it was going to be 2 nights and I found out about AEW. And I said, oh, next year, that's going to be tough. I mean, New Japan Wrestling is now essentially in the States now AEW.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it looks like they still are putting on Will Ospreay still in New Japan Wrestling. Still looks like a decent card. I still want to watch the main events on both nights 1 and 2. I still want to watch Jericho
and Kenta's back. It's good to see. It's good to see Kenta's name in there. Obviously his run in WWE was short-lived, and because of injuries and whatnot, he never really got the steam that he probably deserved. A little push that he deserved in WWE. So it's good to see him doing well back in Japan. I mean, he was very famous over there anyway, so it was kind of a good move for him. So I'll be interested to see that. I'm looking forward to Okada and Ibushi. I think that match will be good. They're always those two always live up to the hype. And then Ospreay is always good. So I mean, there's some matches in there that I want to see. I'm also want to check out Thunder Liger's retirement match.
Yes, forgot to mention that as well. I mean, it's still going to be a decent card. Still going to check it out. I think what's nice is there's probably for us here in the States about 4 matches every night we want to check out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
so it won't be as long because I'll try to check out 4 matches each night. So a total of probably 8 matches I'll watch from this event.
Yeah, I'll be watching a little bit. The nice thing is you can always catch a lot of the highlights later on. So I'll be checking them out, seeing how it goes. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Jericho too. I mean, is that if he loses, he has to put up his title. That'll be interesting.
I mean, that'll be interesting for the North American fans because that'll bring a New Japan wrestler over to AEW for essentially a rematch, but here in the States.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our year-end review. That's why we are here. We're giving you our best matches, our best moments from 2019. Let's start off with match of the year. Well, actually, we'll save that for a little bit. Let's start off with female wrestler of the year. I'm going to ask you, Brandon, who is your female wrestler of the year?
So my female wrestler of the year is Becky Lynch, the man. I think she's had one hell of a year. I mean, she says it all the time. I think she's everything that she's accomplished, that all the she's been a main event player all year long. She's one of the most watched, must-see wrestlers in the game today. Obviously, aside from, maybe Bray Wyatt, at this point. But Becky Lynch is on fire. She's been rolling. I mean, some people may argue, okay, Charlotte Flair. But who's had more of an impact than Becky Lynch this year in the women's division? I don't see anybody.
I don't see anyone who's had more of an impact. You're correct. But one wrestler who's held their title a little bit longer, my pick, Shayna Baszler.
I don't disagree with Shayna Baszler. But here's the thing. Shayna Baszler has she's done it, at NXT, which, I'm not downgrading NXT by any means, but she hasn't had to face the likes of Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Sasha Banks, week in and week out. The competition in NXT, I don't think it's still decent. The women's division down there is pretty decent, but overall, I would say that Becky Lynch has been, I think she's been the far superior main attraction, I guess, in the women's division. I think she's just had a hell of a year. I mean, I'll give you Shayna Baszler. That's not a bad choice. I was kind of surprised. I figured you might go Charlotte Flair because that's kind of that's like a great pick by most. That's I guess a popular pick by a lot of people.
So I am going to now move on to male wrestler of the year. Who do you have as your male wrestler of the year?
You know what? I'm gonna let you go first. All right,
my male wrestler of the year, and I think the reason I'm picking my male wrestler of the year because it's not so much that he's had a lot of matches or held a lot of gold, but either way, if he's not wrestling, he's being talked about. And that's kind of with like the Becky Lynch. You could even say for Women Wrestler of the Year, Ronda Rousey, because she helped, move that main event of WrestleMania.
Sure.
So I'm picking Jon Moxley, my wrestler of the year.
I can't argue that. I mean, Jon Moxley's a very hot choice. He's done a lot between two companies this year. So, I mean, I can't disagree with it.
I mean, he's not wrestling, but he's always being in the news. We talk about him every week. Where's he going? What's he doing? Who's he facing?
I agree. I mean, I agree. That's a solid pick. I had him actually. He was like second or third on my male wrestler of the year. I'm gonna get to mine. This one might come as a surprise.
I don't think so.
Adam Cole.
That's not a surprise.
Adam Cole he's Adam
when it comes
Cole,
to actual
baby.
Matches, he's probably had the best year.
Yeah, and here's the thing, he's the leader of the best faction right now in sports entertainment, in my opinion. He's got the gold. He's one of the most talked about wrestlers. I mean, Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley. He gets talked about a lot. But Adam Cole he's
backing it up.
He's backing it up. He just puts on 5-star matches, and he's 5-star on the mic. He is the best thing for NXT right now. And you know what? And that's saying a lot because Finn Balor's down there right now.
Yeah.
And Adam Cole, to me, and as much as I love Finn Balor and what he's done, I watch NXT for the most part. For a couple guys. Adam Cole's one of them. Velveteen Dream's another one. I would have put Velveteen Dream maybe in the top 3 this year, but Velveteen Dream has been hurt.
One guy we're not talking about a lot, and it kind of goes with the both performance and comes to talked about, Bray Wyatt.
Here's the thing. The thing with Bray Wyatt, the reason why I picked Adam Cole over a guy like Bray Wyatt, because Bray Wyatt's had a good finish to the year. I don't think he has. I mean, he's been very much talked about, of course. I mean, I'm wearing the T-shirt. I'm a big supporter of Bray Wyatt. I don't think from start to finish, the whole package from January to December, it can't match up with Adam Cole in my opinion. I think he's done well. So if it was a full year, then you have to put Bray Wyatt at the top, or at least close to the top.
Well, yeah, I mean, his year probably started right after WrestleMania when the vignettes started.
Yep.
That's when I think his year started. And
yeah.
I mean, nothing beats that Firefly Funhouse. That was probably the best segment that beats any Miz TV or any sort of other segments that they do. Moment of Bliss. Firefly Funhouse definitely won the year when it comes to best kind of talk show.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not really a talk show, but non-wrestling segment.
Yeah, definitely non-wrestling segment. It's fantastic. I think we agree there. We don't have that. We'll put this as kind of a bonus of the year. We'll call it the segment, non-wrestling segment of the year. Nobody touches it. Bray Wyatt has just been fantastic. He's one of the few things that keeps you going sometimes. Like when you have a really stagnant product out there in WWE, you're always you're waiting to hear, you hear that, that little tune, the Firefly Funhouse. It's, when you hear that, you're like, all right, I'm back. I'm locked in. I'm getting off my phone, because sometimes you're watching a show and you're like looking at your phone. You're like, man, I'm ready for this match to be done. Bray Wyatt, you hear Bray Wyatt stuff where you hear something that's Bray Wyatt, or you hear the where like the lights are coming off, and you're like, oh, all right, I know Bray's coming on. So to me, he's been, since April, pretty damn good.
So let's move on now to our tag team of the year. Who do you have as the tag team of the year? Your pick.
I had to think about this one. There's a lot of great choices, and it's hard for me. I have to split it between two. I'm splitting hairs. I gotta go. The obvious choice is the Young Bucks. I think that's an easy choice. I also agree or disagree, or not. I'm going with the Revival. I love the Revival. I love what they've done. They're to me, they're the most must-see tag team in WWE at this point. So on that side, I would do, for WWE's purposes, I would say the Revival, and then everywhere else, the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks have done well, even in defeats. Another team that you could probably throw in there would be Lucha Bros, but if you had to make me pick one, I'd probably give the slight edge to the Young Bucks.
I'm gonna go, and probably I'm gonna say my kind of runner up would be Undisputed Era. You know, the two that are the tag team champs there.
Those are pretty good.
I'm gonna say one who necessarily haven't had a lot of wins, but thanks to your Young Bucks, they've had a lot of time to make it known. I'm gonna say Private Party.
Private Party's been pretty good.
Just entertaining wise, I mean, I like everything that they're in. Young Bucks, I just can't give it to because of the fact that they're so well known. It just seems like such an obvious choice. You got to kind of look a little bit deeper.
I'll say this. I mean, Young Bucks are a known commodity and they constantly deliver. So for me, like, yes, you're right. They're well known in the wrestling, the wrestling fandom and the wrestling world. But they constantly deliver. And even in defeats, they still look good. And they still, to me, they're the most well-oiled machine. And then I would put the Revival as like, one. If it was Bucks or 1A, Revival's 1B. It's very close to me. I think they're different styles because it's more old school with the Revival, which I appreciate, and then the Young Bucks have some really cool tandem offense, which I love that as well. So it's the Young Bucks, no matter what, even if they don't win matches, they're so good at putting people over, like Private Party or Lucha Bros have been pretty good, but even making them a little bit, getting them a little pumped up because not everybody knows the Lucha Bros. I think the Young Bucks just have the total package. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this. Moving over to a tag match of the year, is there one that you have in mind? Is there anything that comes to mind? And it's funny we're talking about this because there's one match that comes to mind, and it's not WWE. Surprisingly, I was looking through matches that I went back and watched a little bit of matches and see what I thought was the best match out there, and I'll give you mine. So mine was Double or Nothing, Young Bucks, Lucha Bros. I think that was the best tag match of the year.
It's hard to disagree. I mean, I think the moment that an NWA that had the Rock and Roll Express become tag team champions again, since they've in a very, very, very long time, was a cool moment. But I got to give it to that match at Double or Nothing. It's probably my favorite tag team. I mean, there's been some good ones in NXT as well.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. At the last couple pay-per-views, NXT with Undisputed Era's had some great tag team matches. But you got to give it to the one. You're talking Young Bucks and Lucha Bros. Or, yes.
Lucha Bros, yes. I want to get to it. There's another one that I want to ask you about. Best pay-per-view of the year.
Best pay-per-view. I'll go first on that one. I'm going to pick a kind of a unique one because we can't just have the obvious picks here. I'm going to go for Money in the Bank from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. I know it's obvious to pick a lot of the NXT TakeOver events, and they were great, and they all delivered. But I think the idea was trying to find something that delivered that you didn't know was going to deliver. We obviously know Wrestle Kingdom. We knew what that was going to be heading in. It's going to be a great show. It is. But Money in the Bank, I think it kind of delivered a SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania kind of feel. Had a lot of great matches. I'm looking at it right now. Seth Rollins and AJ Styles put on a great singles match, one of the best WWE matches of the year. You had Kofi Kingston and Kevin Owens put on a pretty entertaining match. You obviously had the moment at the end of the Money in the Bank ladder match where Brock Lesnar showed up and won the Money in the Bank. He didn't cash it in yet. It started the whole Brock party movement. But overall, I mean, Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe with the U.S. belt on the line. I thought that was entertaining. Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans. I mean, it wasn't one of Becky Lynch's best matches, but I think her doing the double duty with, beating the one and then losing to Charlotte, and then Bayley beating Charlotte, winning, cashing in the Money in the Bank, the women's Money in the Bank match. An all around a good show, probably, when it comes to non-SummerSlam. I think it's better than SummerSlam, actually. Better than SummerSlam, and bang for your buck, maybe better than WrestleMania.
Yeah, I would agree with that. WrestleMania I thought was not that great this year, to be honest, anyways. So I would agree with you. I think Money in the Bank, we've talked about it before, I believe. Money in the Bank was a pretty good show.
Oh, and had Shane and The Miz, I just forgot, in a cage match, which I don't know if it was, but that, if you think about WrestleMania, probably the most best or entertaining match at WrestleMania when it comes to, things going on was Shane and The Miz, and you had the rematch here inside a steel cage.
Yeah, that was a pretty good match. I would say it was one of the better WWE like main roster pay-per-views of the year. Now, I know you mentioned TakeOver. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. I really enjoyed NXT TakeOver New York this year. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And I'll get to it a little bit later. A little teaser. There is a particular match on that show.
No, I mean that show was great.
That might be a favorite for match of the year. We'll get to that a little bit. But from top to bottom, it was just. I mean, if sometimes I'm watching a pay-per-view, whether it's Money in the Bank, WrestleMania, any of these shows, I watch these, and I'll watch some AEW, and I'll watch that too, and sometimes I catch myself looking at my phone because the action's kind of like why I remember this, and I remember talking to you about this NXT TakeOver New York. I wasn't looking at my phone at all. I was literally just locked in. Like, it was from start to finish. It was just a fantastic product. That's what wrestling is all about. I mean, you watch those matches like Gargano and Cole. That was a great match. The fans were engaged. Like, they were engaged the entire show from start to finish. To me, it was head and shoulders above everything else.
I mean, all the NXT takeovers. I think Takeover 25 in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the one that kind of stood alone, that was a pretty decent show. I mean, all the ones, especially two that featured Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano. I mean, they were great shows.
Oh, for sure. I think overall you're spot on. I mean, those Cole and Gargano, they put on a good show.
So I'm going to move on to match of the year. I'll go first. My match of the year. It actually wasn't tough at all. My match of the year is Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega in their just brutal brawl, non-sanctioned match that they had at the most recent AEW pay-per-view, Full Gear. I wasn't even expecting that to be the main event. I thought the world title match would be the main event. And wow, I mean, 30 minutes of just doing things we haven't seen in a long time, things that we wouldn't see in WWE, things that, brought us back to ECW days. A lot of people, the fact that people questioned if they went too far made me say this is why we watch all the wrestling we do, because of stuff like that.
Just because it's moments like that, they're unforgettable. Now, speaking of unforgettable, I had two matches that came to mind, and they were both by the same competitors. And we were just talking about it just a moment ago. And you mentioned, Takeover 25 in Connecticut, and also Takeover New York, NXT Takeover New York. Those, within 2 months, Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, best matches of the year. It was kind of a toss up for me. I will slightly give the edge to the Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano, the two out of three falls match in New York. I think that was the best match of the year. It was storytelling and just great moves. It kind of takes you back to those like classic matches. Maybe like a Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, like guys that just tell a story from start to finish. The crowd again was so engaged into it. I've never seen the crowd just so into every single move when these guys were dishing out. Whether it was a miss, they countered, like they knew each other's moves, and like it was just, to me, it was storytelling at its best. And those two always steal the show, and I love when those two put on matches because it's always A+, 5-star across the board.
So now we'll finish it off with saying, what are you looking forward to going into 2020 in the wrestling world?
Oof. All right. So I'm looking forward to seeing how, I don't know if we're going to call it, the war, so to speak, AEW and WWE. I'm curious to see if AEW can maintain, their steam. They've been doing pretty well. The ratings have been pretty good, minus that funny tweet the other day. NXT dominated, by the way.
Yeah, 800,000 to 0.
Yeah, well, it's because AEW didn't have a show, of course. But I'm curious to see how AEW, keeps the steam rolling. I mean, they've had good product, good show after good show. They just got to do what WWE does and just do it night in and night out for a long time before people consider them serious contenders. To maybe not take WWE's throne, but give WWE some serious competition. I'm hoping this serious competition that AEW poses to WWE will also help make WWE more enjoyable, because I'll be honest with you, 2019 was kind of a year
for WWE. It was a better year.
I
think WWE is getting a little bit better, and that's because the competition is on their heels.
I still think there's some things that need to be worked on. I don't think it's not.
Nothing is perfect.
No, nothing's definitely perfect for sure. But I think some of the storylines have been like they're not using some of the wrestlers as they should. There's guys there that like some of these stupid gimmicks like Shorty G. Like, come on, like to me that's dumb. Chad Gable, that's perfect. He's an Olympian. He's got the pedigree like a Kurt Angle. He's got the in-ring moves like Kurt Angle. Like, the guy's fantastic. They're not using him. They're not using Cedric Alexander. I can name a bunch of guys. So, like, to me, in 2020 for WWE, I really want you to use these guys. Like, I want you to use Alexander, Gable. Maybe get some more Buddy Murphy in there. I mean, these guys put on great matches. So I'm hoping you're going to see some new faces make a big push for 2020.
You know, there's lots of things to choose from, but just be specific about one thing. I'll just say I'm looking forward to see what NWA Power can give us into the new year, what they can do with a full year under their belts. They've had a strong start, an interesting start, more or less than a strong start, because they kind of weren't like AEW. We didn't really see them coming. They came, and it was word of mouth of, you got to go check this out. And now you got people watching them, and they're pretty strong going on. I kind of wonder where they can go from here in the year 2020. Now that they have Marty Scurll in the mix, and they've only been putting on great shows every single week. So I wonder, at the end of 2020, is NWA, are they going to have grown anymore? We've talked about that. Are they going to be on the grow? Or are they going to be still kind of stagnant?
And getting Marty's that was a good pickup, because I know he was he's a hot commodity in the wrestling world. So getting him, that's a good thing. I like Aldis. I think he's pretty good. And then you got Storm down there as well. So you got some names down there. So it's I like that.
I'm just kind of wondering, like we talked about before, are they going to grow at the end of 2020? Are they still going to be doing the same format and just kind of chugging along, or are we going to start to see some growth from them? Start to maybe travel a little bit. Take it out of Atlanta and move it around a little bit. Only time will tell, I guess. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I mean, 2020 it looks to be a very promising year in the sports entertainment world. So wrestling fans, get ready. 2020 is gonna be a lot of fun. Quick final: we found out that a couple weeks ago, Dio Madden, he's trying to pursue wrestling once again. So he is out of Monday Night Raw's announce booth, and that this past week was Samoa Joe. According to rumors, last week at the announce booth as well. They look to get him into the storylines of how Monday Night Raw ended with Seth Rollins and everything like that. Who do you see now replacing Samoa Joe on the Monday Night Raw announce team? I couldn't think of anybody at this point. I mean, is there any names that you've heard? I haven't heard much. I don't think Tom Phillips, because I feel that Vic Joseph is a Tom Phillips. What about Renee Young? I mean, what about bringing her back into the mix? I understand she's got the thing going with backstage, but I really enjoyed her commentary. What about what's his name? I think he's on 205 Live. He was not Nigel McGuinness. No, he's on NXT. No, Rusev's old boy there. Yes, I know you're talking about. Yes, Aiden English. I mean, maybe that's a fit. I mean, that could be a fit. I mean, just thinking about it. But from an interesting standpoint, I understand that Renee Young's got her thing going on, but I'd love to see. Here's a good one. Why don't we bring back our boy from NWA that got booted? Yeah. I don't think that will ever happen. Yeah, I was pretty surprised to see him at the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. Yeah, Jim Cornette's not going to be WWE. But that what? That one thing we learned about 2019 was CM Punk coming back, and and everything else we've seen in the past. Never say never. And one last thing, I know we've been one last thing for a minute. CM Punk, 2020, does he wrestle? Yes or no? We'll leave it at that. No. Okay. Edge, does he wrestle in 2020? Yes, I think he does. All right. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the show. We'll talk Wrestle Kingdom. We'll talk brand new Raws and SmackDowns into the new year. So that's it for this year-end review. We will see you in 2020. For Brandon Yates, Burke Clements, for myself at K-Rock Jared. Until the new year, we'll see you then.